For this project, I am using a shadow cut and fold with this design. I've done videos in the past that were a shadow cut and fold, and I've done a cut and fold that was with Kiss. For this video, I wanted to combine the two. So for this one, I'm doing, instead of just a cut and fold, it'll be a shadow cut and fold for this. And the pattern that I have will list, it does have a skip on every other page because it is a shadow fold. But I will do a 180 fold with this. So it's not necessary when you do that. Shadow fold means you're skipping every other page and then measuring and cutting on every other page, on the other pages. When you do a 180 fold for the book, you can still use this process. All the pages will have a 180 fold. On the skip ones, you're just not doing anything with them. It's just gonna have the 180 fold. And then on these, you're measuring and then folding in. So I wanted to show you what the pattern looks like when it's done just as a cut and fold, and then how this will look as a shadow cut and fold with a 180. And the book that I have has 414 pages. The pattern, I have it as 395 because I'm skipping some pages right at the beginning. So those I won't start the pattern until the actual page 1 in the book, and then I'll leave that many blank at the end as well. Now when I'm doing the 180 fold on this book, I am using my 180 marker. This ruler has these markings on here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's just to indicate when I do videos so that you can see which line I'm marking. If you were to order one, it's just gonna look like this. There are some patterns and some tutorials that I've done where you're gonna use multiple lines. For this one, I'm using just the 180 fold, so I will only need one. You can choose how deep you want to go into the book. I don't want to see the text for this particular pattern, so I'm going to use just line number 2. That means that when I'm holding my scoring tool, it's always going to be in the same position, and I'm using this against this edge of the slot, so against this piece of wood here, but pressing this way. So if I were to do number 1, I'm going this way. And you always need to make sure that the scoring tool is in the same exact position with every single scoring. Otherwise you may be off and then your pages will not be even. I've already marked a few of the pages here, so it's easy to just run your finger down the edge, and then you can use a bone folder to give it a crisp edge. So just fold back. Because these are already scored, it's easy to do that 180 fold on them. These are at the beginning, so I'm not doing any kind of measuring on these pages. When you do 180 folds, it's best to do at most 20 at a time. I mean, I could score the entire book, but then as far as doing the 180 folds, do not do more than 20 at a time because the book is going to bulk up and it's going to be a really hard, you're going to have a hard time making the markings on the book. So this is my page 1 of the pattern, and I could fold, like I said, 20 of these pages as 180 folds and then go back and mark them. I just wanted to show you real quick if you haven't seen my other videos before. Let me just show you real quick for this. So I'm using, if you're using my 180 marker, again, you need something that's got a fine tip. This has a 90-degree angle to it right there. So this is gonna butt up against the edge of the pages. When you go like this, it stops right there. And then I'm going to do my 180 mark right there for all the pages. And I'll do a whole bunch of them and then go back and fold them over and then start marking. Okay, I marked this many pages right here, and you can see they're nice and even. I have a tutorial. If you don't have this, I do have a tutorial with 5 different ways you can do a 180 fold. I've used others in the past, but since I've come up with this, I just find it much easier to get an even mark line. But I've used the binder, the spine from a report cover. I've used rulers to mark it, you know, so there are options out there. And then once you have this, then we need to measure the page. To do my measuring, I am using an Incra ruler. I find that so much easier to do the marking because there are little holes along the way. If you haven't used one of these, check it out. It's really so much easier to do it. All right, so if we look at the pattern, we have 2 markings on the first page and then we skip 1. So it's 17 and 17.3. So I've done the marking right there. That's the one, and then this gets skipped. Okay, so I have my markings for this page as well, and then this gets skipped. So let me back up for this one just so I can show you the markings if you haven't done one of these patterns before. I will cut this up to the edge of this fold here, and this is how far this fold will go back. Initially I do press just a little bit, and then you can go back with your bone folder just to make sure that it's folded back. Okay, and that's what this will look like. Because this pattern has lots of very fine, you know, where the hair is, you're gonna end up with a lot of 1 millimeter cuts, like right here. You know, all of these will be 1 millimeter cuts. Okay, so just continue with the pattern this way. I'll check in halfway through, halfway through the book, and this is what this looks like. So I finished the first 2, and if you look at the video where it's cut and fold, you can see the difference of what this looks like versus the other one. Now, this one is not colored, that one I did color. So I'm gonna continue doing this the same way that I did the beginning that I showed you. So I'll continue with this section, and I will be back to show you the final design. And then once you're completely done with the folding, then this is what the pattern looks like. So I will add cardstock to this because I wanted you to see what this looks like compared to the other pattern that I did, which I colored with marker because it was just a cut and fold. There was no 180 to it. So I just wanted to show you what the difference is between the 2 patterns. Now for adding the cardstock, I'm using just black paper. And what you need to pay attention to when doing this is to make sure that the paper does not have a white core. So if you look at this paper here, the edge of it is black. If you look at this one, it's white. So this has a white color to it. The other way you can see is if I rip this, you can see that the color is white on here, whereas on the other one, if I rip it, it's black. Okay, so this one, the core is black, and you do not want to use this because when you cut it, all you're gonna see is just the white line on there. So this is the cardstock, and I always use, when I cut, and you can, you know, some book folders will cut it just pretty much just to the height of whatever the pattern is. I usually cut it just a little shorter than the page. I'll measure what this is and then just take off just a little bit at the top and the bottom. That way it's uniform. If you cut it randomly, it's gonna end up looking like a shadow on your pattern. I don't do it that way. I'll just cut the whole length of the book. And if I measure this book, it's about 9 inches, so I'm gonna do it 8.5 inches. To cut the cardstock, I'm using a larger paper trimmer. It's an X-Acto, almost looks like industrial size paper trimmer, and it just cuts much nicer, sharper paper this way. So I'll just cut a whole bunch of them, and you can actually figure out about how many you need. Take your book and number of pages and divide in 2 because you've only folded half the number of pages. That's how many leaves there are. And then on top of it, This is a shadow fold, so I skipped every other page. So it's really a quarter of the book. And this is about 400 pages, so I need about 100 of these strips. I started to put some of the cardstock into the folds here to start with the coloring, but I wanted to show you real quick what I do. I've done other videos showing the process, but for those of you who haven't seen those videos, instead of putting glue on the cardstock because you don't know where the openings are, I put glue on the tabs here. And I usually put glue just on the wide tabs. I don't do the really skinny ones because I don't want the glue to ooze out and then get on the rest of it. So I slide these in, and then I just make sure it's about equal up here and equal down here. And then I'll close the folds, press on it, and then I do want to make sure that this is all the way in to the fold. You don't want it halfway down, so just make sure that this is all the way in. And then that goes away. Show you one more. Let me see one where it's got lots of cuts, just to show you that. Here we go. We'll do this one. And now this is a fairly skinny tab here, but I still will put it because it's right in the middle of the page, and I want to make sure that it doesn't slide out. Okay, so I'll continue doing the rest of the pages, and then I'll show you the finished folding. And once you've added all the cardstock to it, then this is what it looks like. So nice and smooth on the top compared to the cut and fold where we don't have the cardstock pieces. And then if you look at the cross section of it, as usual, it's got the fold further in, so that, and then the cardstock is tucked in underneath these this fold. So comment below and let me know if you like this pattern more, which is the shadow cut and fold with a 180, or this one that I did previously with a cut and fold only. And that one was colored with markers. If you have any questions about either technique, please comment below. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next project.